This is First Sip Friday. I'm with John. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having me on today.
Good to be here. I thought it would be really fun to talk about uh, what it's like to get into our business. People ask me all the time, what's a good way to get into the business? What's it like to be a financial advisor? There are programs set up around the country at universities for being a financial advisor now. It's a popular industry for young people, I think, and there's certainly a need for it. I'm curious, how do you think being a financial advisor differs from the perception that people have from the outside looking in? What are the main differences from actually doing it compared to how it's advertised?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the passion around it. Being a financial advisor is something like anything when you get into a career, when you're looking whether you're coming straight out of college or going into college, or perhaps you've started something else and you're trying to get into something a little different. You need to have a passion for it. Um, for me, with my background, I wasn't exactly raised privileged. We went through a bankruptcy when I was younger. Um, we made some uneducated financial decisions that caused my family a lot of heartache and stress. And in hindsight, I believe that's why I now do what I do. As for being a financial advisor versus the Wolf of Wall Street, Margot Robbie, trading executive floors, giant parties, and all the drugs, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I spent a little bit of time in New York when I worked at a large firm. I'm now back at my original home at a boutique management firm. And when you're a financial advisor, you are a trusted family member. You are somebody who folks come to when they want to have a kid, when they want to buy that house, when they want to retire. And they believe in you, and it is up to you to provide sound advice that can help them achieve their goals and dreams. And as such, that is the very most rewarding thing about this job. But it is definitely not all the glamour and parties that media seems to make it out to be.
It's also not purely academic. So I think coming out of school, there's a lot of focus on the mechanics of putting together a financial plan. The CFP program is fantastic in laying out all the components of a financial plan. And uh, I think sometimes folks think that the that is the job. You just crank through these concepts all day, every day. But of course, that's part of it. But it might be helpful to help people understand what the daily grind really looks like for somebody like you.
Sure. So if you want to talk about what my day looks like, usually you're up in the morning, 6:30, and you're checking emails. You're trying to see if any clients have contacted you. You're taking a peek into the markets and see what's occurred overnight. Is there anything that you need to be emotionally prepared for? And that has nothing to do so much with the trading or the planning work. That has everything to do with managing expectations of clients. So, um, if something has happened overnight, which occurs quite frequently, you could be awoken to a few calls from some folks, and you need to be prepared to field those things. So back to what you said about it not being purely academic and the studies point, it's a lot of psychology. And every single person that you deal with, family, business owner, etc., they all respond differently. You need to stay consistent with your message. You need to stay consistent with your mood. It's very easy to get excited when you're doing well, and it's very um, easy to get down on yourself when things are going hard. And folks look to you for consistency and guidance. And basically, what I'm saying is outside of the academia of knowing the things that you need to know, which you will gain in any program, it's understanding that you are dealing with people, and people can be rational and they can be irrational and very emotional at times. They are trusting you with their livelihood and their well-being, and that is a massive responsibility that you cannot take lightly.
People are also busy, and we spend a lot of time trying to get a hold of people, emails, phone calls, text messages, just trying to get in touch, get information so we can move things along. I think that, and it can be frustrating at times, as you know. These are some of the daily grind stuff that I don't think is all that glamorous. Sending dozens of emails per day, just trying to get some data or some indication that people are ready to engage.
Sure. So I think what you're referring to is the actual business building. You can be the best financial planner in the world. You can be the best investor in the world. And if you don't have any clients, well, that doesn't mean squat, which means you have to get out there and network and cold call. This is a job that has sales involved in it. If you're going to be a financial advisor, you have to get out there and do those things. And as such, you deal with a lot of rejection. I can't tell you how many times I've had to call people over and over and over again, and it's very easy to get frustrated and discouraged. Perseverance comes to mind. There's been some success stories I've had where I've worked on folks for a couple years before they just finally had the time to speak with me. And it wasn't because they didn't want to do business with me. They just truly were too busy with other areas to focus on what I was telling them. That can be massively frustrating. You wear a lot of hats as a financial advisor, especially because you do have to build a business. And I think the failure of the programs that we have is it does not ready you for that side. You come out of school. I am a CFP. I went through that program. I was a wealth planning analyst at UBS. That's a wonderful program to be exposed to the industry. However, the greatest letdown or failure is the inability to teach you to market yourself and to deal with those daily rejections, which truly are daily.
Let's talk about the entry point, getting into the business. I did it absolutely the wrong way. I would never do it the way I did it again. I would not advise anybody else do it the way I did it, which is basically quit a good job with a career trajectory that I would have been really pleased with, start with no clients and take on a lease, and then without much of a plan, try to figure out how to get a business off the ground from zero. That's not a great choice, although there are much better tools to be able to do that now that are turnkey packages, but it's just extraordinarily difficult to actually get it going. There are banks, there are the traditional Wall Street firms out there, there are insurance companies, there are independent companies like ours. There's a ton of different ways to get started. How would you help somebody evaluate which entry point is best for them?
I think you need to be in a place, and when you're applying, when you're looking at where you need to go, whether that is a traditional bank, whether that is a small firm, whether that is a large firm with a very defined program like UBS, I think it's really important to understand that you need mentorship. There needs to be a clear line of growth with a lot of training involved. When you're evaluating these programs, if they're telling you about commissions and how much you're going to be making and you do this, that, and the other, those are major red flags for me. I really, really respect some of the mentorship that I've had that said, look, you're going to work hard, but we're going to invest in you. We're going to invest in your additional education here. You are going to get proper training and you're going to study under somebody else who is going to help you along the way. Anytime you get into this industry and day one, they say, okay, go get your license and then call your friends and family and see how much business you can close. That doesn't work. I mean that. I've been in situations like that. I've talked to 100 of my peer group and 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make it. And statistically, if it's 10% or less that succeeds in that group, that's not a career you want to have. So the things that I look for when you're coming out is a true training program that says, hey, we're going to take you on for a year, for 2 years, and we're going to work you in and get you exposure to all the different facets that you need to know. And that includes client meetings. So we're going to have you be involved, be a fly on the wall, take good notes, and we're going to start to introduce you to those interactions, because as good as you think you are, you're not. And it's a learning curve. It's something that I've been doing this now for 8 years. Kevin, you've been doing it far longer. And every day is a new opportunity to learn and to get better, like anything, but especially in this industry.
Give me the 2 factors that you think distinguish successful advisors from everybody else.
I think first and foremost, you have to focus on processes. What I mean by that is you're not looking for, well, I want to bring in 20 clients this year and have 20 million in assets under management. That's great. That's a good goal. But what's going to accomplish that is I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to get on LinkedIn, or I'm going to create content, or I'm going to pick up the phone and call people. But define what those numbers are, and then get out there and every day repeat it over and over and over again. If you want to be a successful advisor, focus on your process, create a daily agenda with a task list that until you finish that task list, you're not done for the day. And if you do that, you will be successful. That's one. And 2 goes hand in hand with that. I would say it's both perseverance and the ability to be uncomfortable. You have to learn to be okay with being outside of your comfort zone. It is not easy to pick up the phone and call somebody you've never met before and introduce yourself. It is intuitively something that we shy away from. In college, I knocked on doors and painted houses for a little while, and that was absolutely miserable. I didn't make any money. I wasted a lot of time. But what it taught me was it's okay to get out there and try those different things. Be respectful when you do this. You don't enjoy getting phone calls. I don't enjoy getting phone calls. Be respectful, but don't be afraid to fail, and just keep trying. So have processes, and get outside of your comfort zone, and keep trying. Those are as simple as I can make it.
I'll add one, which is a little dose of luck doesn't hurt. And that's not all that satisfying, because who knows if you're going to be the lucky one. But I think a different way to think about that is you don't know who's going to help you. You don't know who the person you're going to meet this year who's going to help take your career to the next level. So it pays to always be thinking about that and engaging with people in a way that opens up the possibilities for what might come next. That definitely happened to me when I met my partner, who's a CPA. We were just introduced by a mutual colleague, and we got together and for lunch, and 6 hours later, we had a partnership, and it changed my career and changed his career. And we had no idea what we were getting into. We were just going to lunch. So yeah, that was lucky, but we were both open-minded and interested and looking for opportunities at the same time. Let me ask you one more.
Sure.
How do you think our industry is going to change most significantly over the next 10 years?
Great question. So in my background, I've worked for some of the largest advisors in the state of Texas. I've worked with clients that have $10,000, and I've worked with clients that are over $1 billion. One of the largest transitions that's happening right now is that the industry is becoming very transparent, which is wonderful. All of the rules and regulations that we have, and we are arguably the most regulated industry that exists, and that includes healthcare, came out of people taking advantage of their clients. And by people, I mean advisors. Bad advisors who got greedy and took advantage. Because of that, they are now taking away the veil of how we get paid, of how compensation works. And so I think the industry is rapidly transitioning towards a fiduciary mindset. Fiduciary meaning that you have an obligation to place a client ahead of your own interests at all times. And if you don't do that, well, there's some serious ramifications, such as going to jail. I believe that the industry is skating towards a point where investments and entry points into the industry, which historically have been where advisors have made their money, trades and transactions. Now it's going to be on the actual advice and planning work that you do, things that folks actually find meaningful. So making money and trades and performance is great, but it doesn't really move the needle for folks on an individual level of what they're trying to do. So I think you're now going to see advisors, a new wave of advisors and a generation that aren't just managing a portfolio. And I believe that the dollars that you're paid for managing a portfolio are going to be further and further commoditized. And also because of things like robo-advisors, it gets easier and easier to have a properly diversified portfolio. So moving forward, it's truly the service aspect and the planning work and the advice that you're giving to clients on which advisors are going to get paid on. And I think that that's beautiful. I think it's needed to happen for a long time. It does mean a lot more work for advisors. We can no longer sit behind a screen and make trades and your day's done and you go play golf at noon. It's not going to fly anymore. So if you think that that's what's going to happen when you get into this, you're sadly mistaken. But that said, I love what I do. I love what we do, Kevin. I do really agree with your luck earlier, but I'd also take it one step further to say, don't close any doors. Be a genuinely kind person that makes time for everybody, and that will serve you well.
10 years ago, if I had been asked the question, what's going to change going forward, I would have talked a lot about disruptive technology. I would have talked a lot about that causing fee compression through the fees that advisors receive. We haven't really seen either of those things happen in significant ways. The adoption, there's technology out there, but the adoption is pretty light. Most folks just aren't that interested in financial software, I've found. That could change, but it hadn't changed that much over the last 10 years. The fee situation has stayed roughly the same. There are certain areas where costs have definitely come down. So in a way, I guess my answer to my own question is probably not that much. Probably the nature of the work will likely be more the same than it is different 5-10 years from now. But I think the trends you mentioned are happening and will continue, but that'll be more of a gradual adjustment and an adoption by the broader industry, because a lot of people are already doing business that way. But the massive technology breakthrough that I've been waiting for, maybe it happens, but it hasn't, and I just don't see it automating advice. And not only is the technology not there, but the trust and belief in a technology advice tool, I think might take an entire generation to totally trust that.
Well, and what you're alluding to effectively is that people trust other people. If you're going to make a big decision in life, you seek out guidance from somebody that knows what they're talking about. I do a lot of research myself on just about everything. For instance, I had a back surgery. I could read all day long about back surgery. At the end of the day, I wanted to know my surgeon ahead of time. I wanted to speak to him. I wanted to hear what he was going to do. And that was meaningful and impactful. When you go house shopping, you want to find a good real estate agent. It's somebody that you trust, that knows better than you, that you know is going to take care of you. And that is this role. You are that person. And I do agree. I don't think that is going anywhere. The human interaction is paramount to what we do and what anybody does in any profession. And I also believe automation will become a part of what we're doing. And I see us skating there quickly. But I don't think the advisor will ever be phased out.
Happy Friday, John. Enjoy your coffee.
Cheers. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.